In 1939, the German Wehrmacht had a problem that nobody talks about when they discuss Blitzkrieg. The tanks that were supposed to sweep across Europe at lightning speed were destroying themselves before they reached the battlefield. Panzer tracks wore out on hard roads. Engines overheated covering long distances under their own power. The revolutionary armored force that was supposed to conquer a continent was grinding itself to pieces on the roads of its own country before it even crossed a border. The solution was not a better tank. It was a truck. And the truck they chose was the FAUN L900. The idea behind the FAUN L900 was deceptively simple. If tanks destroyed themselves driving to battle, don't let them drive. Load them onto heavy trucks, transport them to the edge of the battlefield, unload them fresh and ready to fight. The concept was called Verlastung, transported armor, and it represented a fundamental shift in how the German military thought about armored warfare. The tanks were the weapon. The FAUN L900 was what made the weapon usable. The vehicle that emerged from the Fahrzeugfabrik Ansbach, a Nürnberger factory, was a 6x4 heavy truck built around a diesel engine displacing 13,538 cubic centimeters. A 6-cylinder unit producing 150 horsepower at 1,600 revolutions per minute. A larger 8-cylinder version displacing 18,050 cubic centimeters produced 180 horsepower and required an extended hood to accommodate an engine approximately 400 millimeters longer than the 6-cylinder unit. Both versions drove through a 5-speed gearbox with a multi-plate dry clutch, transferring power via driveshaft to twin rear axles through overhead worm drives, a mechanically robust arrangement designed for the sustained heavy loads that tank transportation demanded. Top speed was 50 kilometers per hour. Fuel consumption was 50 liters per 100 kilometers. A figure that tells you everything about the scale of the mechanical task this vehicle was performing. The fuel tank held 200 liters, giving a maximum range of approximately 400 kilometers before refueling. For a vehicle carrying a tank across occupied Europe, that range required careful logistics planning on every operation. The cargo bed measured 6.5 meters long and 2.32 meters wide. Loading ramps folded down from the rear to allow tanks to drive directly onto the bed under their own power. Each FAUN L900 was paired with a special trailer 115, a dedicated low loader that in its later version carried 10 tons of additional payload. The combination of truck and trailer meant that a single FAUN L900 could transport 2 light tanks simultaneously, one on the truck bed and one on the trailer. To transport the armored strength of a single light tank company required 192 of these combinations operating in coordination. The tanks the FAUN carried were the Panzer I at 5.4 to 6 tons, the Panzer II at up to 10 tons depending on variant, and the captured Czech Panzer 38T at just under 10 tons. The heaviest load the system could reliably manage. The Wehrmacht's light divisions, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, were the only formations equipped with transported armor, each paired with a dedicated tank battalion whose entire operational concept depended on the FAUN L900 getting the tanks to the right place at the right time. In practice, the system revealed problems that the planners had not fully anticipated. The combined weight of a loaded FAUN L900 with trailer and tank exceeded the load ratings of many bridges along the planned routes of advance. Crossing these bridges required unloading the tank, driving the empty truck across, then driving the tank across separately under its own power, then reloading. A process that consumed exactly the time that rapid transportation was supposed to save. The enormous combinations were unforgiving of driving errors on narrow European roads. The most dramatic documented failure of the system occurred during operations when a Panzer II being transported on an Autobahn came loose during emergency braking. The tank slid forward along the truck bed and completely crushed the cab beneath it. The photograph of the aftermath exists. The weight of a 10-ton tank in motion against a truck cab made of steel and glass left nothing recognizable. It was a reminder that the FAUN L900's most dangerous cargo was also the cargo that paid no attention to the vehicle carrying it if the securing chains failed. During the Polish campaign of September 1939, the concept of transported armor showed both its advantages and its fundamental limitations. The light tanks the FAUN carried, Panzer I and Panzer II, lacked the firepower and armor protection that serious combat demanded. They could be delivered fresh to the battlefield by the FAUN, But once there, they were vulnerable in ways that transportation efficiency could not fix. The Wehrmacht recognized this and by March 1940 had reorganized the light divisions into conventional Panzer divisions equipped with heavier tanks that the FAUN L900 could not transport at all. The trucks and their special trailer 115S were redistributed to other uses. The specific mission they had been built for, rapid strategic movement of light armor, lasted barely a year of active operations before the tanks grew too heavy for the system that had been designed to carry them. In June 1939, when the Panzer Abteilung 65 received captured Czech tanks heavier than the FAUN's limit, 52 heavy trucks and 50 low-loader trailers were immediately redistributed away from the unit. The system that had required 192 vehicles to transport a single division's armor was dismantled almost as quickly as it had been assembled. Production records show 27 FAUN L900s built in 1939 and 54 more in 1940. A total of 81 documented vehicles against an operational requirement that had already been overtaken by events. Much of the factory archive was destroyed by Allied bombing, taking detailed production and operational records with it. What survives is enough to understand what the vehicle was designed to do and the narrow window of time in which it did it. The FAUN L900 existed at the intersection of two ideas that were both correct and both incomplete. The idea that tanks should be transported rather than driven to battle was correct. Modern armies still do exactly this. The idea that light tanks transported at speed could substitute for heavier armor in serious combat was wrong. And the Polish campaign proved it within weeks. The FAUN L900 was the right answer to the wrong question, built in precisely the numbers needed for a doctrine that the war itself rendered obsolete before the trucks had completed their second year of service. 81 trucks built. 1 year of the mission they were designed for. A photograph of a crushed cab that says everything about what happened when the calculations were wrong. That is the honest history of the FAUN L900. Not a story of triumph or failure, but of a precise engineering solution to a military problem that changed shape faster than the solution could follow.